endings. People run from them, hide from them, cry when they see them coming. But sometimes endings aren't a choice, they're a verdict. The curtain falls, the lights cut out, and that little voice inside says, enough, this chapter finished. The mess, the lies, the chains you've been dragging, over. And in that silence after the break, something stirs. A shift, a crack in the old world where the new one crawls in. You feel it, don't you? The weight of the past peeling off your skin. The sense that what was tolerated yesterday won't survive today. Because when something ends like this, it's not loss, it's transformation, a new stage, a new fire, a new era clawing its way out of the rubble. Every ending is a command to transform, not to cling. You see, people love to hold on. They clutch at scraps, pieces, broken shards of what used to be, as if squeezing tighter will somehow glue the past back together. But endings don't care about your grip. They come with a kind of finality, a brutal whisper that says change or be crushed, and that's the part no one wants to hear. We beg for mercy, we bargain for extensions, we lie to ourselves that maybe things will go back to how they were. But endings, they don't negotiate. They're not polite. They arrive like a blade, slicing through your illusions. And what's left is a choice you never wanted to make. Transform, or stay buried under the ruins. Clinging feels safer, doesn't it? Wrapping yourself around memories, routines, faces that aren't even here anymore. You convince yourself it's loyalty, that it's love, that it's faith, but it's not. It's fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of who you'll become when you finally let go. Because transformation is messy. It's ugly. It tears at the skin of who you used to be. It burns. And no one wants to burn. So instead, you cling to the ashes, pretending they're still flames. But that's the joke. Ashes don't warm you. They choke you. They smother you. And every second you hold them tighter, the colder you become. An ending is not a suggestion. It's not a hint. It's not a gentle nudge saying, maybe it's time to move on. No, it's a command. A sentence handed down from somewhere deeper, sharper, higher than you. And it doesn't wait for your approval. It strips away what you thought you couldn't live without and dares you to survive anyway. And when you do, you're not the same. You can't be. Because transformation isn't about adding something new. It's about destroying what no longer fits. It's about ripping out the roots of the old self and watching what grows in the cracks. And isn't that the cruel part? That transformation doesn't always feel like growth. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like death. You wake up and realize pieces of you are gone. The softness, the innocence, the blind hope. They don't survive the ending. They get buried with it. But in their place, something harder emerges. Something sharper. Something that doesn't flinch when the world pushes. That's the real lesson endings shove down your throat. You don't get to keep who you were. You only get to discover who you'll become when there's no choice left but to adapt. People hate that. They scream at it. They fight it. They cling even harder, desperate to stitch the past onto the present, desperate to live inside a corpse of a life. But the more they cling, the deeper they sink, because endings aren't doors you can lock. They're explosions. They don't leave the old standing. They reduce it to rubble. And clinging to rubble only ensures one thing. You'll bleed on it again and again until the pain forces you to let go. Transformation, though transformation is freedom disguised as punishment. It feels cruel, but it's the only thing that keeps you alive. Endings force you to face that the version of you that once survived, once thrived, is no longer fit for what's coming next. And so you're broken, and in the breaking, you're reforged. You didn't want it, you didn't ask for it, but you needed it. Because clinging to what was would have killed you slower than any ending ever could. Every ending is a command, not a request. You don't get to choose whether the old world collapses. You only choose whether to rise from the wreckage or be buried beneath it. And that's the real joke, that the very thing you feared, the ending you begged to avoid, becomes the reason you become someone unrecognizable, someone forged in fire, someone who couldn't exist without everything first being ripped away. Old chains must break before new paths appear. That's the rule, isn't it? You can't walk forward with your ankles tied, no matter how much you pretend you're moving. And yet, people love their chains. They polish them, decorate them, even convince themselves they're jewelry. Chains of old habits, old fears, old loves that have already turned to dust. They drag them around like trophies, smiling through the weight, whispering, "This is who I am." But here's the reality. Chains don't define you. They confine you. They don't make you whole, they keep you small. And the longer you worship them, the longer you stay in the same cage, circling the same walls, never seeing the door that was always there. The breaking is the ugly part. Oh, it's not graceful, it's not poetic, it's violent. It hurts. Chains cut into your skin when they snap, they tear, they leave scars. That's why so many people choose not to break them at all. They'd rather live with the familiar pain than risk the agony of freedom. Because freedom is terrifying. It means no excuses. It means no anchors. It means stepping into a path that hasn't been walked before, without a script, without a guide, without the comfort of blaming the chain. The chain is safe. It gives you someone, something to blame. But when it's gone, then it's just you and the wide, raw silence of possibility, and you know what's funny. Most of the time, the chain isn't even real. It's not locked, not sealed. It's held together by fear, by the idea that without it, you'll fall apart. But the truth is, the chain is what's been strangling you all along. Every time you tried to move forward and felt resistance, every time you wondered why life felt so heavy, every time you saw the same mistakes on repeat, that was the chain laughing, whispering, "Stay here, stay stuck, stay small," and people listen. They listen because chains are familiar, and familiar feels safer than freedom. But then comes the moment, the breaking point. The point where the chain hurts more than the fear of letting it go. And when that happens, you don't ease out of it. You don't gently untie yourself. You rip. You scream. You fight against it like an animal gnawing off its own limb. And it feels like death. It feels like betrayal. It feels like you're losing a part of yourself. Because in a way, you are. Those chains have been with you so long they've blended into your identity. But breaking them doesn't mean you're losing yourself. It means you're losing the lie you wrapped yourself in, and the path. It doesn't show itself until the chains are gone. That's the cruel irony. People want to see the road before they let go. They want assurance. They want clarity. They want a promise of safety. But the path only appears in the absence of the weight. As long as you're shackled, your eyes can't see what's beyond the walls. It's only in the breaking, in the bleeding, in the raw moment after the chain falls, that the horizon starts to open. And when it does, it's blinding, terrifying, endless. You almost miss the chains because at least they gave you boundaries. But freedom doesn't hand you a map. It hands you space. And space is far scarier than confinement. So the question becomes, how much do you want to see? Do you want to keep polishing the same rusted chains, convincing yourself they're gold? Or do you want to feel the burn, the sting, the violence of snapping them apart? Because that's the price. You can't keep the old and still demand the new. You can't drag your chains onto the next road and expect it to lead anywhere different. Old chains must break, not bend, not loosen, not shift. Break, and in the breaking, something hidden, something buried, something waiting finally has the room to emerge. That's when the new path appears. Not before, not during, but after. After the scars, after the silence, after the pieces of who you were lie scattered around you. And that's the point you realize. You were never walking at all. You were only dragging. And now the weight is gone. And every step forward is finally your own goodbye forces you to meet a new version of yourself. You think you know who you are, your habits, your jokes, your routines, the way you smile when certain people walk into the room. But the second someone leaves, all of that gets torn apart. The person you were with them, the version of you that only existed because of their presence, dies the moment they walk away, and you don't realize it right away. No, it sneaks up on you. One morning you look in the mirror and realize the reflection staring back doesn't carry the same light in the eyes. The laugh sounds different. The skin feels heavier. You're no longer the same because every goodbye is a burial of the old you, and people don't like that part. They cling to the memory of who they were, like holding on to a corpse will somehow bring it back to life. They replay old conversations, wear old clothes, revisit old places, trying to resurrect the self that once fit so perfectly into that relationship, that friendship, that moment in time. But goodbyes don't allow resurrection. They demand reinvention. The old you has been carved out, gutted, replaced by silence. And what's left is something raw, unfamiliar, and frightening. That's the real punchline. Every goodbye doesn't just take someone away from you. It rips away the identity you built around them. At first, it feels like loss. Pure, endless loss. Like walking around hollowed out, carrying a shadow instead of a body. You keep expecting to find the old you. Like maybe if you just keep going through the motions, they'll come back. but they don't. The laugh doesn't sound the same. The smile doesn't feel as natural. The routine feels broken. And that's when the realization creeps in. The old you is gone for good. You're left with a stranger, a version of yourself built from pain, from absence, from the jagged edges of letting go. And whether you like it or not, you have to live with that stranger. Sometimes that stranger is bitter, colder, sharper than you ever imagined. You find yourself snapping at little things, isolating, distrusting, because the wound left behind has poisoned you. Other times, that stranger is quiet, distant, softer in a way that feels almost numb. You pull away from people, from risks, from love, because you know what it costs when goodbyes come. Each goodbye shapes you differently, but the pattern is the same. You are never the same person after. You are forced to meet a new version of yourself every single time someone important leaves. And isn't it strange how people rarely notice? To the outside world, you still look the same. You still walk the same streets, still wear the same face, still say the same phrases. But inside it's a battlefield. Inside, you're negotiating with this new self, trying to figure out what to keep and what to bury. The world sees stability, but you feel chaos. The world sees continuity, but you feel fracture. And you can't explain it to them. Not really. Because how do you explain that you've become someone you never agreed to be? That goodbyes sculpted you into something foreign without asking your permission. But here's the part no one likes to admit. Sometimes that new version of you is stronger, harder, unshakable in ways the old you could never be. Because pain has a way of stripping away illusions. It kills the naive parts, the fragile parts, the trusting parts. And while that feels like loss, it's also transformation. The goodbye took pieces of you, but it left behind a survivor, a version of you that knows how to carry weight, a version of you that knows what it costs to love, to lose, to rebuild. That new version isn't soft, but it's real. And maybe that's what every goodbye is for, to strip away the masks and force you to meet the raw, unvarnished self underneath. You don't choose these transformations. They're forced on you. You don't get to say, no thank you. I'd rather stay who I was. The moment someone leaves, that self is gone, and you're shoved into a new skin, whether you're ready or not. And maybe that's the cruel truth. Every goodbye isn't just about losing them. It's about losing you. And the only thing left is to figure out who this new version is and whether you can stomach living as them. New era demands sacrifice of the old self. That's the cost people don't want to pay. They dream about fresh beginnings, about rebirth, about rising from the ashes. But they still want to carry the ashes with them. They cling to old patterns, old comforts, old scars, dragging them into a future that has no space for them. And then they wonder why nothing changes, why the new era feels suspiciously like the old one, because you can't step into something new while gripping what's already dead. Something has to burn. Something has to be given up. And most of the time, that something is you. The version of you that's already rotting, but pretending to be alive. People mistake sacrifice for loss. They cry over it, rage at it, act like it's unfair. But sacrifice isn't theft, it's trade. You give up one thing to gain another. The problem is, the thing you give up is usually the part of yourself you're most comfortable with. The self that knows the rules, knows the routines, knows the safety of staying small. And giving that up feels like suicide, like tearing away your own skin. But that's what the new era demands. It doesn't want the version of you that barely survived yesterday. It wants the version forged in fire, cut loose from chains, stripped of weakness. And you don't get that version unless you're willing to bleed out the old one.